There are moments in life when silence speaks louder than words. When someone disrespects you, misunderstands you, or tries to provoke you, the natural instinct is to respond, to defend yourself, to explain, to prove your point. The mind urges you to react, to correct the situation, to regain control. But the Stoic philosophers taught a very different response. Sometimes, the most powerful action is to simply walk away. At first, this may seem like weakness. It may feel as though you are surrendering, avoiding confrontation, or allowing others to win. But in reality, walking away, when done with clarity and intention, is not an act of weakness. It is an act of control. And more often than people realize, it unsettles the very ego that sought to provoke you. To understand why, we must first understand the nature of the ego. The ego seeks validation, control, and reaction. It feeds on attention. When someone criticizes you harshly, disrespects you, or attempts to provoke a response, they're often not just expressing a thought. They're seeking a reaction. A reaction confirms their influence over you. If you become angry, defensive, or emotional, the ego on the other side feels reinforced. It believes it has power. But when you choose not to react, when you remain calm, composed, and walk away, you remove that source of validation. The reaction they expected does not arrive. And in that absence, something unexpected happens. The ego becomes unsettled. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we're disturbed not by what happens to us, but by how we interpret it. This applies not only to our own emotions, but also to the expectations others place on us. When someone expects you to react in a certain way, they have already formed a judgment about how you will behave. Walking away quietly disrupts that expectation. It shows that your actions are not controlled by their words, their tone, or their behavior. It reveals a level of independence that the ego often finds difficult to understand. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reflected on this idea frequently. He reminded himself that other people's actions belong to them, but his response belongs to him. This simple distinction forms the foundation of Stoic emotional strength. When you walk away from unnecessary conflict, you are not avoiding reality. You are choosing where your energy is best invested. Not every situation deserves your time. Not every argument deserves your voice. The Stoics believe that a wise person does not waste energy on things that do not contribute to a meaningful life. This includes arguments driven by ego rather than reason. Another reason walking away affects the ego is because it removes control. In many conflicts, there's an invisible struggle for dominance. Each person attempts to assert their perspective, defend their position, or prove their superiority. But when you step away, you refuse to participate in that struggle. You're no longer playing the same game. And when one person leaves the game, the other is left without an opponent. This can feel unsettling because the dynamic they expected has been broken. The Stoics understood that true strength does not come from winning arguments, but from mastering oneself. The philosopher Seneca wrote that the greatest victory is not over others, but over our own impulses. Walking away is often a form of this victory. It requires restraint. It requires awareness. It requires the ability to recognize when a situation is driven by emotion rather than reason. In the modern world, this principle is more relevant than ever. Social media, instant messaging, and constant communication have made it easier than ever to react quickly. A comment appears, and within seconds a response is sent. Disagreements escalate rapidly, often without reflection. In this environment, the Stoic practice of pausing becomes even more valuable. When you choose not to respond immediately, you create space. In that space, you regain control over your actions. You can decide whether the situation deserves your attention at all. And often, the most effective response is no response. Walking away does not mean suppressing your thoughts or ignoring important issues. Stoicism does not advocate silence in the face of injustice or meaningful conflict. Instead, it teaches discernment. It teaches us to recognize the difference between situations that require thoughtful action and those that are fueled by ego, pride, or unnecessary provocation. When a situation is driven by ego, engagement often leads nowhere. Words are exchanged, emotions rise, and both sides become more entrenched in their positions. But when one person chooses calm detachment, the cycle is interrupted. This is where true control becomes visible. Another important aspect of walking away is the preservation of inner peace. Every argument, every emotional reaction, and every unnecessary conflict consumes energy. Over time, this can lead to mental fatigue, frustration, and a loss of clarity. The Stoics valued tranquility of mind. They understood that protecting inner peace allows a person to think more clearly, act more effectively, and live more intentionally. Walking away is one of the simplest ways to protect that peace. It is a quiet decision that says, "This is not worth my energy." This perspective also changes how others perceive you. A person who reacts to everything appears easily influenced. Their emotions are visible, their response is predictable. But a person who remains calm and chooses when to engage appears different. They appear grounded, composed, and self-controlled. This does not mean that others will always understand your silence. Some may misinterpret it. Others may continue to seek a reaction. But over time, a pattern becomes clear. You are not easily provoked. And this alone changes the dynamic of many interactions. Perhaps the most important Stoic insight in all of this is that your peace, your actions, and your responses belong to you. No one else has the power to take them unless you choose to give them away. Walking away is simply the expression of this understanding. It is the recognition that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every voice deserves a reply. In the end, the reason walking away unsettles the ego is not because it defeats the other person. It is because it demonstrates something deeper. It shows that you're no longer controlled by the need to react. And in that quiet control, there's a strength that speaks for itself.